You got the Centennial Fountain. It's one of those kind of like iconic Peterborough locations, you know, like the water tower, lift locks. Yeah. So people do have some kind of attachment to it. On the other hand, it is just a fountain that shoots like water into the air. The actual impact on people's lives is kind of minimal in comparison to you know, more or less anything else that was in the budget. I did read Councillor Zippel, who proposed the shortening of the season. She did post kind of manifesto on her blog, kind of explaining her logic, talking about the aggressive kind of climate change targets. But it doesn't sound like you're on board with it. It sounds like there's been some pretty hefty pushback. Do you think it's even going to survive on Monday when the budget gets ratified?
I'm not surprised. I think we need to, and here's the problem. You know, you have your idealism and then you have expedience, but then you shorten up your whole democratic process, right? You know, I had suggested that we ask staff for a report for options on how we can mitigate our impact on the climate, how we can save electricity. Are there other ideas like we just stated? Can we just run it for a shorter time? And you might end up saving more power and having a less impact. But without having a proper report that's coming through the cycle, and I know the politics is boring and it can take a long time and be frustrating, but that's democracy, right? You get that report out in the public. We all have the same information a week ahead of time, and then ideas can then flow from that, right? When you just propose stuff at council on the fly, you kind of shorten up that process, right? And we didn't have one delegation about the fountain saying that we should cut it, right?
It is an interesting one. I think Kim Zippel showed she's a bit tone deaf on public reaction, or maybe not. Maybe she knew there would be that much reaction. But I think, I can see her point in that if you're going to say you're serious about climate change, then this is a real good way to make that clear to the public. We're going to take an iconic Peterborough symbol and we're going to cut whatever it is, a month off each end of the schedule, because we want everyone to know we're serious about climate change. And it's, to some degree, you know, you get down to that, how much energy are you saving, how much carbon are you reducing? A bit of a mug's game in that you're doing something. On the other hand, it is a very important thing to a lot of people in Peterborough. Yeah. And I think I like your idea. Cut it down hours front, hours back. It's not my idea.
That came from the hundreds of people who've talked to me.
Yeah,
it was one of the first comments.
Because then you can still go out and make a public statement that in order to, we're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to clip hours off front and end, and you're not going to see the fountain as much because we want people to be aware. It works just as well that way, I think, and it works better for people who want to see it.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, if we had, it was Stephen Wright who had asked for a report on that, and said, are there other ways? And then I tried to help him through it as the chair, saying, well, you know, I think Stephen's asking for a report on are there better ways to deliver this to your goal, right? Or are you stuck on this? And there was no discussion. It was like, this is it.
Well, I think the gesture was meant, you know, when on that first day of budget discussions, when, you know, people are coming forward and you know, talking about the things that they would like to see in the budget, you know, the number one thing was daycare. That was no surprise there, and I think we'll probably talk about that later. But this number two thing that people were talking about was climate change, and how, you know, the city declared this climate change resolution in September, I think it was.
I've got the public budget survey.
Declaring a climate crisis, and then they kind of felt that, like, okay, so what does that actually mean? You know, listening to them, it sounded like they thought that the climate change resolution was more symbolic than anything else, and this motion was, you know, I'm not going to interpret what Councillor Zippel was trying to do, but from all appearances, it felt like a kind of gesture to kind of meet that response and basically say, no, here's what we're doing in regards to climate change. But it sounds like there are other ideas on the table that might...
Yeah, that might accomplish the same thing.